Verse for opening a sutra. The unsurpassed profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of aeons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. The Wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra, Chapter 1. Sutra. Thus have I heard, at one time, the Buddha dwelt on Mount Gridrakuta, near the city of the House of the Kings, together with a gathering of great bhikshus, 12,000 in all. All were arhats who had exhausted all outflows and had no further afflictions. Having attained self-benefit, they had exhausted the bonds of all existence, and their hearts had attained self-mastery. Their names were Ashnata Kondanya, Mahakashyapa, Uruvela Kashyapa, Gaya Kashyapa, Nadi Kashyapa, Shariputra, Great Magolayana, Mahakautyayana, Aniruddha, Kapina, Gavampati, Revata, Pilinda Vatsa, Vakula, Mahakaustila, Nanda, Sundarananda, Purna Maitriyani Putra, Subhuti, Ananda, and Rahula, and other great arhats such as these, whom the assembly knew and recognized. Moreover, there were those with further study and those beyond study, 2,000 in all. There was the Bhikshuni Mahapajapati with her retinue of 6,000, and Rahula's mother, Bhikshuni Yashodhara, also with her retinue. There were 80,000 bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, all irreversibly established in Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. All had obtained dharani and the eloquence of delight in speech, and turned the irreversible wheel of the Dharma. They had made offerings to limitless hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, and in the presence of those Buddhas had planted the roots of myriad virtues. They were constantly receiving those Buddhas' praise. They cultivated themselves in compassion and were well able to enter the wisdom of the Buddhas. They had penetrated the great wisdom and arrived at the other shore. Their reputations extended throughout limitless world realms, and they were able to cross over countless hundreds of thousands of living beings. Their names were the Bodhisattva Manjusri, the Bodhisattva who contemplates the world sounds, the Bodhisattva who has attained great might, the Bodhisattva constant vigor, the Bodhisattva unresting, the Bodhisattva jeweled palm, the Bodhisattva medicine king, the Bodhisattva courageous giving, the Bodhisattva jeweled moon, the Bodhisattva moonlight, the Bodhisattva full moon, the Bodhisattva great strength, the Bodhisattva unlimited strength, the Bodhisattva who has transcended the three realms, the Bodhisattva Bhadrapala, the Bodhisattva Maitreya, the Bodhisattva jewel accumulation, the Bodhisattva guiding master, and other Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas such as these, 80,000 in all. At that time, Shakra Devanang Indra was present with his retinue of 20,000 gods. Among them were the god Moon, the god Universal Fragrance, the god Jeweled Light, and the four great heavenly kings with their retinues, 10,000 gods in all. There was the god Comfort and the god Great Comfort with their retinues, 30,000 gods in all. There was the god King Brahma, ruler of the Saha world, as well as the great Brahma Shikin and the great Brahma Brilliance, and others with their retinues, 12,000 gods in all. There were 8 dragon kings, the dragon king Nanda, the dragon king Upananda, the dragon king Sagara, the dragon king Vasuki, the dragon king Takshaka, the dragon king Anavatapta, the dragon king Manashvin, and the dragon king Utpalaka, and others each with his retinue of several hundreds of thousands of followers. There were 4 Kinara kings, the Kinara king Dharma, the Kinara king fine Dharma, the Kinara king great Dharma, and the Kinara king upholder of Dharma, each with his retinue of several hundreds of thousands of followers. There were 4 Gandharva kings, the Gandharva king music, the Gandharva king musical sound, the Gandharva king beautiful, the Gandharva king beautiful sound, each with his following of several hundreds of thousands of followers. There were 4 Asura kings, the Asura king Balin, the Asura king Karaskanda, the Asura king Vemachitrin, and the Asura king Rahu, each with his retinue of several hundreds of thousands of followers. There were 4 Garuda kings, the Garuda king great majesty, the Garuda king great body, the Garuda king great fullness, and the Garuda king as you will, each with his own retinue of several hundreds of thousands of followers. There was Vaidehi's son, the king Ajatasattu, with his retinue of several hundreds of thousands of followers, each made obeisance to the Buddha's feet, withdrew to one side and sat down. At that time, the world-honored one, having been circumambulated by the fourfold assembly, presented with offerings, honored, venerated, and praised, for the sake of the Bodhisattvas, spoke a great vehicle sutra named the Limitless Principles, a Dharma for instructing Bodhisattvas, of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. After the Buddha had spoken this sutra, he sat in full lotus and entered the samadhi of the station of limitless principles, body and mind unmoving. At that time, there fell from the heavens a rain of Mandarava flowers, Maha Mandarava flowers, Manjushaka flowers, and Maha Manjushaka flowers, which were scattered upon the Buddha and the entire great assembly. All the Buddha universes quaked in 6 ways. At that time, the entire great assembly of bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, gods, dragons, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, mahoragas, beings human and non-human, as well as the minor kings, the wheel-turning sage kings, all attained what they had never had before. They rejoice, enjoying their palms, and with one heart gaze upon the Buddha. Then the Buddha emitted from between his brows a white hair-marked light, which illumined 18,000 worlds to the east, omitting none of them, reaching below to the Avicii hells, and above to the Akanishta heaven. From this world were seen all the living beings in the 6 destinies in those lands. Further were seen all the present Buddhas in those lands, and all the sutras and dharma spoken by the Buddhas was heard. Also seen were the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas in those lands who cultivated and attained the way. Moreover, were seen the bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, the various causes and conditions, the various beliefs and understandings, and the various appearances of their practice of the bodhisattva way. Further was seen the parinirvana of the Buddhas, and after the parinirvana of the Buddhas, the building of stupas with the 7 jewels to hold their sharira. Then the bodhisattva Maitreya had this thought: now the world-honored one manifests signs of spiritual transformations. What is the reason for these portents? The Buddha, the world-honored one, has now entered samadhi, yet these are inconceivable and rare events. Who should I ask concerning them? Who could answer? He further thought, the Dharma Prince Manjushri has in the past drawn near and made offerings to limitless Buddhas. Surely he has seen such rare signs. I shall now ask him." Thereupon the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas and upasikas, as well as the gods, dragons, ghosts, spirits, and others, all had this thought: who should now be asked concerning the Buddha's bright light and signs of spiritual penetrations? At that time, the Bodhisattva Maitreya, wishing to resolve his own doubts, and further regarding the thoughts of the fourfold assembly of bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas and upasikas, as well as the thoughts of the assembled gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits and others, questioned Manjusri as follows: "What are the reasons for these portents, these signs of spiritual penetrations, for the emanation of the great light which illumines 18,000 lands to the east, so that the adornments of all those Buddha worlds are fully seen?" Thereupon, Maitreya Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke verses asking: "Manjusri, what is the reason for the guiding master's emanation from the white hair between his brows of a great light which shines everywhere, and for the rain of Mandaravas and of Manjushaka flowers, the breeze of fragrant chandana, which delights the hearts of those assembled? Through these causes and conditions, the earth is all adorned and pure, and within this world the earth trembles in 6 different ways. Then the fourfold multitude rejoices all together, in body and in mind, and raptured, they obtain what they had never had. The bright light from between the brows shines into the eastern quarter, causing 18,000 lands all to become of golden hue, and from the Avicii hell upwards to the peak of being, within each of the worlds are seen the beings within the 6 paths, their destinies in birth and death, their karmic conditions, good or evil, their retributions, favorable or ill. All of this is seen herein. Further seen are all the Buddhas, the lions, the sagely masters, expounding on the sutra scriptures of foremost subtlety and wonder. Clear and pure is the sound of their soft, compliant voices, teaching all the bodhisattvas, numbering in the countless millions. The Brahma sound, profound and wondrous, fills those who hear with joy. As within his world, each one proclaims the proper Dharma through various causes and conditions and limitless analogies. They clarify the Buddha Dharma to enlighten living beings. To those who have encountered suffering, weary of sickness, aging, death, they speak about nirvana, which brings all suffering to an end. To those possessed of blessings, who have made offerings to past Buddhas and resolve to seek the superior Dharma, they speak of enlightening to conditions. To those who are the Buddha's sons, who cultivate various practices, seeking wisdom unsurpassed, they speak of the way of purity. Manjusri, while dwelling here, I see and hear such things as these, reaching to 1,000 million things, such a multitude of them, which I shall now explain in brief. I see in other lands bodhisattvas like Ganges sands, through various causes and conditions, seeking the Buddha way. Perhaps they practice giving, with gifts of silver, gold, and coral, of true pearls and of money, mother of pearl, carnelian, of vajra and of other gems, of servants and of carriages, jeweled hand-drawn carts and palanquins. These they offer up with joy, in dedication to the Buddha way, vowing to obtain the vehicle, foremost in the triple realm, the one which all the Buddhas praise. There are bodhisattvas who give a jewel coach and four, with rails and flowered canopies, richly ornamented carriages. Again are bodhisattvas seen, who give their flesh, hands, and feet, who even give their wives and children, seeking for the utmost way. Again are bodhisattvas seen, whose heads, eyes, and bodies whole are offered up most joyfully, seeking the Buddha's wisdom. Manjusri, I see royal monarchs who, visiting those Buddha's courts, ask about the utmost way, and then forsake their pleasant lands, palaces, ministers, concubines, and cutting off their beards and hair, clothe themselves in Dharma robes. Seen are bodhisattvas who, becoming bhikshus, dwell alone, within the wilds, in quietude, reciting sutra texts with joy. Again are bodhisattvas seen, striving with heroic vigor, entering the mountains deep, to ponder on the Buddha way. Seen too are those who have left desire, who dwell in constant solitude, deeply cultivating dhyana samadhi, and attaining 5 spiritual penetrations. Again are bodhisattvas seen, in the peace of dhyana, with palms joined, who, with 1,000, 10,000 lines, sing praises of the Dharma kings. Again are bodhisattvas seen, of profound wisdom and solid will, able to question the Buddhas and accept and hold all they have heard. Further seen are Buddha's disciples, with wisdom and samadhi perfect, who with limitless knowledges preach Dharma to the multitudes. Joyfully they preach the Dharma, transforming all the bodhisattvas, defeating thus the troops of Mara, and beating on the Dharma drum. Seen too are bodhisattvas in silence and tranquility, though worshipped by the gods and dragons, they do not find it cause for joy. Also seen are bodhisattvas dwelling in forests emitting light, relieving those suffering in the hells and leading them to the Buddha way. Also seen are Buddha's disciples who have not slept but walk at ease. Within the forest groves they seek with diligence the Buddha way. Seen too are those with perfect precepts, intact with awe-inspiring manner, their purity like precious pearls, with which they seek the Buddha way. Also seen are the Buddha's disciples, abiding in the strength of patience, though by those of overweening pride, maliciously rebuked and beaten, they are able to endure it all, seeking for the Buddha way. Again are bodhisattvas seen, apart from all frivolity and from stupid followers, drawing near to those with wisdom, single-mindedly casting out confusion, collecting their thoughts in the mountain forests for tens of thousands of millions of years, in quest of the way of the Buddha. Bodhisattvas there are seen, who, with fine food and drink, and with 100 kinds of broths and herbs, make offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha, who, with fine robes and superior garments of value in the millions, or with invaluable robes, make offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha, who, with 1,000,000 different kinds of dwellings of precious sandalwood, and with much fine bedding, make offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha, who, with gardens and groves, clear and pure, with flowers and fruits in abundance, with flowing springs and bathing ponds, make offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha. Offerings such as these, of many kinds, extremely fine, do they give with joy untiring, seeking for the utmost way. There are bodhisattvas who speak of still extinction's Dharma, with various instructions, teaching living beings without number. Seen are bodhisattvas who contemplate all dharma's nature as lacking the mark of duality, like empty space. Also seen are Buddha's disciples whose minds have no attachments and who use this wondrous wisdom, seeking for the utmost way. Manjusri, again, are bodhisattvas who, after the Buddha crossed into extinction, make offerings to the Sharira. Again are seen Buddha's disciples building stupas, building temples, countless as the Ganges sands, to adorn those realms and lands. The jeweled stupas, tall and fine, are 5,000 yojanas in height, 2,000 yojanas in breadth. Each stupa and temple is adorned with 1,000 curtains and banners, circling around and wrought with gems, and jeweled bells which harmoniously chime. All the gods, dragons, and spirits, humans and non-humans, with incense, flowers, and instrumental music, constantly make offerings. Manjusri, all the Buddha's disciples, adorn the stupas and the shrines, making offerings to the Shariras. Spontaneously, the realms and lands are superbly fine and exquisite, like the king of heavenly trees when its flowers bloom. The Buddha sends forth this single ray, and I and those assembled here view within those realms and lands the various special wonders. The spiritual might of the Buddhas and their wisdom is most rare. Emitting a single pure light, they can illumine limitless lands. Seeing this, we have all obtained what we have never had. Disciple of the Buddha, Manju, pray resolve the assembly's doubts. The fourfold multitude with joy looks up to you, humane one, and to me. Why has the world on it one emitted such a brilliant light? Disciple of the Buddha, answer now, resolve our doubts, so we may rejoice. What benefit is to be gained by putting forth this brilliant light, that wondrous Dharma the Buddha gained? As he sat in the field of the way, does he wish now to preach it, or is he going to give predictions? The manifesting of the Buddha lands, adorned with many jewels and pure, as well as the vision of the Buddhas, does not betoken small conditions. Manju, it should be known, the four assemblies, dragons and spirits, look to you, humane one, hopefully. What is it that is to be said? At that time, Manjusri addressed the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya and all the great lords, saying, Good men, in my estimation, the Buddha, the world-honored one, now wishes to speak the great Dharma, to let fall the great Dharma rain, to blow the great Dharma conch, to beat the great Dharma drum, and to proclaim the great Dharma doctrine. Good men, I have in the past, in the presence of other Buddhas, seen such portents. Having emitted this light, they immediately spoke the great Dharma. Therefore, it should be known that the manifestation of light by the present Buddha is also thus, because he wishes to lead all living beings to hear and understand this Dharma, which in the whole world is hard to believe. He therefore manifests these portents. Good men, it is just as in the past, limitless, boundless, inconceivable, asankhya aeons ago. There was at that time a Buddha named Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp, thus come one worthy of offerings, one of proper and universal knowledge, one of perfect clarity and conduct, well gone one, an unsurpassed knight who understands the world, a hero who subdues and tames, a teacher of gods and people, the Buddha, the world-honored one, who expounded the proper Dharma, good at its beginning, good in its middle, and good at its end. Its meaning profound and far-reaching, its words clever and subtle, pure and unadulterated, complete with the marks of pure, white Brahman conduct. To those who sought to be hearers, he responded with the Dharma of the Four Truths, by which one crosses over birth, aging, sickness, and death to the ultimate nirvana. To those who sought to be Pachika Buddhas, he responded with the Dharma of the 12 conditioned causes. For the sake of the Bodhisattvas, he responded with the 6 paramitas, causing them to attain Anuttara Samya Sambodhi and realize the wisdom of all modes. Then there was another Buddha, also named Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp, and then another Buddha, also named Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp, and so forth, for 20,000 Buddhas, all of the same name, Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp, and also of the same surname, Bharadvaja. Maitreya, it should be known that all of those Buddhas, from the first to the last, had the same name, Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp, and were complete with the 10 titles, and that the Dharma they spoke was good at its beginning, middle, and end. Before the last Buddha left the home life, he had 8 royal sons. The first was named Intention, the second Good Intention, the third Limitless Intention, the fourth Jewel Intention, the fifth Increasing Intention, the sixth Intention Rid of Doubt, the seventh Resounding Intention, and the eighth Dharma Intention. The 8 princes were of awesome virtue and self-mastery, and each ruled over 4 continents. When the princess heard that their father had left the home life and attained Anuttara Samya Sambodhi, they all renounced their royal positions and left home as well. They brought forth the resolve for the great vehicle and constantly cultivated Brahman conduct. All became Dharma masters, having already, in the presence of 10 million Buddhas, planted the roots of goodness. At that time, the Buddhist Sun Moon Lamp Brightness spoke a great vehicle sutra named the Limitless Principles, a Dharma for instructing Bodhisattvas, of which the Buddhas are protective and mindful. When he had finished speaking that sutra, he then, in the midst of the assembly, sat in full lotus and entered the samadhi of the station of limitless principles. His body and mind were unmoving. Then from the heavens there fell a rain of Mandarava flowers, Maha Mandarava flowers, Manjushaka flowers, and Maha Manjushaka flowers, which were scattered upon the Buddha and the entire great assembly. All the Buddha universes quake in 6 ways. At that time, the entire great assembly of bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, gods, dragons, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, mahoragas, beings human and non-human, as well as the minor kings and the wheel-turning sage kings and so forth, all attain what they had never had before. They rejoice and join their palms, and with one heart gaze upon the Buddha. Then the thus come one emitted from between his brows a white hair-marked light, which illumined 18,000 Buddha worlds to the east, omitting none of them, just like all the Buddha lands now seen. Maitreya, it should be known that there were at that time in the assembly 20 million bodhisattvas who took delight in listening to the Dharma. Upon seeing this bright light illumine all the Buddha lands, all the bodhisattvas obtained what they had never had and wished to know the causes and conditions for this light. There was, at that time, a bodhisattva by the name of Wondrous Light, who had 800 disciples. The Buddha brightness of Sun Moon Lamp then arose from the Samadhi, and for the sake of the Bodhisattva Wondrous Light, spoke a great vehicle sutra called the Wonderful Dharma, Lotus Flower, a Dharma for instructing Bodhisattvas, of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. For 60 small aeons he did not rise from his seat. Those assembled, listening, also sat in one place for 60 small aeons, with bodies and minds unmoving, listening to what the Buddha said, as if it were but the space of a meal. At that time, in the assembly, there was not a single person who grew weary, either physically or mentally. At the end of 60 small aeons, having finished speaking the sutra, the Buddha, Sun Moon Lamp Brightness, immediately announced to the assembly of Brahma, Mara, Shramanas, Brahmans, gods, humans, and asuras, today at midnight, the thus come one will enter nirvana without residue. There was at the time a bodhisattva by the name of Virtue Treasury, to whom the Buddha, Sun Moon Lamp Brightness, transmitted a prediction, telling all the bhikshus, the bodhisattva Virtue Treasury will next become a Buddha with the name of Pure Body Tathagato Arahang Samyak Sambuddha. After that Buddha had transmitted the prediction, at midnight he entered nirvana without residue. Following the Buddha's crossing over into extinction, the Bodhisattva Wondrous Light upheld the Wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra for a full 80 small aeons, expounding it to others. The 8 sons of the Buddha, Sun Moon Lamp Brightness, all served Wondrous Light as their master. Wondrous Light taught and transformed them, causing them to become firmly established in Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The princess, having made offerings to limitless hundreds of thousands of tens of thousands of millions of Buddhas, all realized the Buddha way. The very last to become a Buddha was one named Burner of the Lamp. Among the 800 disciples was one named Seeker of Fame, who was greedily attached to profit and offerings. Although he read and recited many scriptures, he did not comprehend them and forgot most of what he learned. For that reason, he was called Seeker of Fame. Because he had also planted good roots, he was able to encounter limitless hundreds of thousands of tens of thousands of millions of Buddhas, making offerings to them and honoring them, venerating and praising them. Maitreya, it should be known, could the Bodhisattva Wondrous Light have been anyone else? I myself was he, and the Bodhisattva Seeker of Fame was you yourself. Their portents now seen do not differ from those, and so, in my estimation, today the thus come one is about to speak a great vehicle sutra called the Wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower, a Dharma for instructing bodhisattvas, of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. At that time, Manjusri, in the midst of the assembly, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke verses saying, I recall that in ages past, limitless countless aeons ago, there appeared a Buddha, one honored among people, by the name of Brightness of Sun Moon Lamp. That well-honored one proclaimed the Dharma, taking limitless living beings across, causing countless millions of bodhisattvas to enter the wisdom of the Buddhas. Before that Buddha had left home, the 8 royal sons born to him, seeing the great sage leave home, also followed him to practice Brahman conduct. The Buddha then spoke a great vehicled sutra by the name of Limitless Principles amidst the assembly, and for their sake he set it forth in extensive detail. When the Buddha had finished speaking the sutra, seated in the Dharma seat, he sat in full lotus and entered the samadhi, called the station of limitless principles. From the heavens fell a rain of mandarava flowers, and heavenly drums of themselves did sound, while all the gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits made offerings to the Honored One. And within all the Buddha lands there occurred a mighty trembling. The light emitted from between the Buddha's brows manifested all these rare events. The light illumined to the east 18,000 Buddha lands, revealing the places of living beings, karmic retributions of birth and death. Seen too were Buddha lands, adorned with a multitude of gems, the color of lapis lazuli and crystal, illumined by the Buddha's light. Seen as well were gods and people, dragons, spirits, and yaksha hosts, Gandharvas and Kinnaras, each making offerings to the Buddha. Thus come once too, all were seen, as they naturally accomplished the Buddha way, their bodies hue like mountains of gold, upright, serene, subtle and fine, as within pure lapis lazuli would appear an image of real gold. The world-honored ones in those assemblies proclaim the profound principle of the law. In all the Buddha's lands, where Shravaka hosts uncountable, through the illumination of the Buddha's light, those assemblies all were fully seen. There were also bhikshus who dwelt within the mountain groves, vigorously upholding the pure precepts, as if guarding brilliant pearls. Also seen were bodhisattvas, practicing giving, patience, and so forth, their number like the Ganges sands, illumined by the Buddha's light. Seen too were bodhisattvas who had deeply entered dhyana samadhi, with bodies and minds still and unmoving, they sought the way unsurpassed. Bodhisattvas too were seen who knew the mark of Dharma's still extinction. Each one within his Buddha land spoke Dharma, seeking the Buddha's path. Then the fourfold multitudes, seeing the Buddha's sun moon lamp, manifest great and powerful spiritual penetrations. In their hearts all rejoice, and inquired each of the other, what is the reason for these events? The Honored One, revered by gods and humans, just then from samadhi did arise, and praised the Bodhisattva wondrous light. You act as eyes for the world. All return to you in faith. You are able reverently to hold the Dharma store. Dharma, such as I do speak, you alone can certify to its understanding. The world-honored one, having praised him and caused wondrous light to rejoice, then spoke the Sutra of the Dharma flower. For a full 60 minor aeons, he did not rise from his seat. The supreme and wondrous Dharma that he spoke, the Dharma Master, wondrous light, was fully able to receive and hold. The Buddha, having spoken the Dharma flower and caused the assembly to rejoice, later on that very day announced to the host of gods and humans the meaning of the real mark of all dharmas has already been spoken for all of you, and now at midnight I shall enter nirvana. You should single-heartedly advance with vigor and avoid laxness, for Buddhas are difficult indeed to meet, and counted but once in a million aeons. All of the disciples of the world-honored one, hearing of the Buddha's entry into nirvana, each harbored grief and anguish. Why must the Buddha take extinction so soon? The sagely Lord, the Dharma King, then comforted the limitless multitude. After my passage into extinction, none of you should worry or fear, for the Bodhisattva virtue treasury, with respect to the non-outflow mark of reality, in heart has penetrated it totally. He will next become a Buddha by the name of pure body, and will also save uncounted multitudes. That night, the Buddha passed into extinction. As a flame dies once its fuel has been consumed, the Sharira were divided up, and limitless stupas built. The bhikshus and bhikshunis, their number like the Ganges sands, redoubled their vigor in advancing in their quest for the unsurpassed path. The Dharma Master, wondrous light, reverently kept the store of the Buddha's law. For 80 minor aeons, he widely spread the Sutra of the Dharma flower. All of the 8 royal sons, taught and led by wondrous light, became solid in the unsurpassed path and met with Buddhas beyond all count. Having presented them offerings, they accordingly practiced the great way, and in succession became Buddhas, transmitting prophecies in turn. The last of these, a god among gods, was a Buddha by the name of Burner of the Lamp, a guiding master of all the immortals, who brought release to countless multitudes. The Dharma Master, wondrous light, had a disciple at that time, whose heart harbored laxness, and who was greedily attached to fame and gain. Seeking fame and gain untiringly, he often visited the great clans. He cast aside his recitations, neglected, forgot, and failed to comprehend them. These, then, were the reasons why he was given the name Seeker of Fame. Yet he also practiced many good deeds, enabling him to meet uncounted Buddhas and make offerings to all of them. Accordingly, he walked the great path and perfected the 6 paramitas. Now he meets the Sakyan lion. Later, he will become a Buddha by the name of Maitreya, who will broadly take all beings over, their number far beyond all count. After that Buddha had passed into extinction, the indolent one was you, and the Dharma Master, wondrous light, was I myself, now present here. I saw the Buddha brightness of lamp. His light and portents were like these. Thus I know the present Buddha wishes to speak the Dharma Flower Sutra. The present marks are like the portents past, expedient devices of the Buddhas. The Buddha now puts forth bright light to help reveal the real mark's meaning. All of you now should understand, and with one heart join your palms and wait. The Buddha will let fall the Dharma rain to satisfy all those who seek the way. Those who seek 3 vehicles, should they have doubts or regrets, the Buddha will remove them now, so that they vanish and none remain. End of chapter 1, the Dharma Flower Sutra.